Good morning, welcome to Furry and Spoilt. I hope that you are all well. I hope your dogs are all doing all right. I want to talk to you today about detoxing dogs when you change dog food. So this could be changing dog food from one dog food maybe to a grain-free dog food. It could be changing from dog food to homemade food. What can happen is dogs need to detox because whether it's the grains that so if you're on a dog food that has grains in it and you're taking them to a grain-free dog food, they need to detox because those grains will have caused a reaction in the body, and if you just suddenly stop it, it's the same, because when dogs eat grains they turn to sugar. And so whether it's grains or whether it's a kibble that's got a lot of sugar in it, it doesn't really matter. It's the same as if we suddenly just cut out sugar in our diet. If you just suddenly said, right, no more sugar, you would maybe get headaches and you'd have a reaction to it. And it's exactly the same with dogs. They do that as well. They have a reaction to it. And I have recently been helping a lady with her dog, and it's exactly what happened to her. And the reason that I know quite a lot about it because of, you know me, always researching nutrition and whatnot. But what happened was my little Albert over here, if you don't know my channel, he is the one who set me up on this whole nutrition course because he had terrible hotspots, really, really bad hotspots when he first came to us that I needed to get sorted out. And as you know, if you know my channel, you know my story, you know how it all went brilliantly. And he had, you can see his look completely clear, and he has been for the last 10 years. But what happened was, for years I was feeding him 50% of his food was homemade by me, and 50% of the food was a grain-free, a wet grain-free dog food. And what happened was, I then decided that I wanted to drop the wet food, the dog food, and go 100% to cooking home cooked food. And what happened was, I went too fast and his hotspots came back, which really alarmed me. Now, the food that I was feeding him was Barking Heads and Harringtons, both of them wet food, grain free. And I still stand by it that if you are feeding your dog a dog food, they are the ones I would recommend, because I had Albert on it for years and he was fine, really good on it, because it was a grain-free food. The protein content from the meat was 65% and 85%. So very good. So it's a very good dog food, and that's why I still have it listed in the description of the products that I use for my dogs, because I still think if you're feeding a dog food, it's one of the good ones. You do need to watch it, because what's happening is, and has been happening with all the dog food at the moment, Mars and Nestle, and Purina, Nestle Purina, they are going around and they are buying up all the smaller, good quality dog foods. And Harringtons and Barking Heads have come under that, and they've been brought out. Not by Nestle or WAG, but by another big international company that doesn't do good quality food. And so I am watching the ingredients on that closely. And the second I see a change that I'm not happy about, I will tell you, and I will take them off my list of things that I feed my dogs. Now, I personally have decided to stop feeding my dogs any dog food. And it's really because of that, because I just worry about these great big corporations, confectionery corporations, buying out dog food. I don't like the idea of what they're doing, because even though dog food is regulated, they don't have to tell you everything that's in them. And while there may not be grains in them, you know, who knows. But anyway, I'll still stick by it. If you're gonna feed your dog food, I think they are two good quality ones, and that is why they are still in the description as a list of products that I use for my dogs. Any product that I've put in that list is something that I've been using for years and years, and I stand by. I will never put anything in that list that I don't stand by and that I haven't used for my dogs for a long, long time. And I don't just use any old rubbish on my dogs. I use the best. So right now, those dog foods are still in the list. But when I took my boys off it and went 100% homemade, Albert had a big old hotspot flare up. So, you know, what I don't know what was in that dog food. I don't know. I think just the whole nature of the processed, just it being processed. And even though it's a wet food, and whilst I wouldn't touch kibble ever, because kibble, it doesn't matter if it's a scientific one, if it's a prescription one, it doesn't matter. The whole process of having to get it made from, to get something that should be meat and vegetables and stuff, to get that to turn into a kibble, the heat they have to do that at holds that heat, and when the dogs eat it, that causes inflammation. It's just incredible. I would never, ever, ever, ever recommend any dog is ever fed a kibble. And I don't care what the vet says. I don't care if the vet has recommended it as a prescription. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, anything a vet recommends is you need to run. Run far, far away from it, because they just sell you whatever they're getting the most commission on. So I would never touch a kibble. But when I took them off the wet food, Albert had a reaction. He had a detox reaction, and I'd gone too fast. So how I did it was, so like I said, I was doing 50% homemade, 50% they were on the wet food. And I did it over, I spent a week, little bit by little bit by little bit, reducing the wet food. And I thought that was slow enough, but it wasn't, and Albert had hot spots come back. I realised quite quickly what I had done, that I'd gone too fast. And second, I put him back on the wet food, so 50% wet food, 50% homemade. The hot spots all went away, all cleared up. It happened, and he only had like one or two, and they were like there for a couple of days, so it was all over very quickly. But I wanted him off that wet food, because I thought, well, I don't know what's in the wet food, but I want him off it. If he's got a detox from it, then I want him off it. So I went really slowly, and I took a month, and so over a month I slowly brought, hang on, I've just got to stop my tortoise because she's going to go and annoy Humps. It's all right, darling, we're going to take her away, we're going to move her. I've said it before, but there is this myth that tortoises are these sweet, loving, slow creatures. It's just not true. They're not like that at all. They're very territorial and can be quite aggressive. So I just got to make sure she's not going to annoy the boys. Yeah, we just got to make sure, haven't we, Humps, she's not going to annoy you. So what, you come and have a cuddle? Yeah, she's not going to annoy you. Hold on, I'm actually just going to pop her out in the garden. Let's pop you out in the garden, and then you can't annoy them. There we go, look, you go out there. It's a lovely sunny day. You go for a run around out in the garden. Look, she's got all that space. You can run around all out there, all down there. There we go. She can't annoy you now, because she really does annoy them. So like I was saying, so I realised the mistake I'd made, and I brought it back, and I did it it took me about a month to... Do you need a cuddle now? Did she come to chase you? Yes, she did, didn't she? She came to chase you, didn't she? She's not allowed to do that. She's not allowed to chase you, is she, my darling? No. So I took about a month to wean him off the wet food. So a little bit every day. I did it the whole same procedure with all three of them. A little bit every day. Just reduce the wet food, reduce the wet food, reduce the wet food. And I took a month to do it. And then when he was, by that point, when he was on no wet food and completely on home cooked food, he was fine. There was no reaction to it at all. But I saw this the other day. I was contacted by somebody, and she said, I've taken my dog off food that had loads of grain in it and put him onto a grain free, and he's worse. And I just knew straight away that it had been done too fast, and that he needed to detox from the sugars in the food. And so she's gone really, so she's gone back. So she's putting back on the food with the grains, and slowly taking him off it. And he's fine now, and he's fine. He's doing really well on it. He's doing fine. But they do need to detox from the sugar and the chemicals and the preservatives and all the stuff that's in them. They do need to detox, and if you don't detox them, it can be quite awful, really, the effects of the detoxing. I hate the thought they have to detox from it, that it's so processed, they have to detox from it. So now I've got all of my boys 100% on home cooked food, and my mission is to make that as simple as I can, so that I can teach you if you want to do it. And please don't think there's any judgment here, because there isn't. I understand some people, for whatever reason, just cannot make home cooked food, and you know, there's no judgment. You got to do what you got to do. But if you do want to cook your dog's home cooked food, and it amazes me how many of you do. What really amazes me, I think I've said this before, I'm not sure, but I'm contacted by people all the time whose dogs have got hot spots and yeast infections and itchy skin and really, really suffering. And I hardly ever have to say you need to get them on homemade food. Hardly ever. It's the one thing that everybody jumps to straight away. Like, just on your own, you just know you got to get them off dog food. The dog food's causing it. And that always amazes me, that you just sort of just, people just they are cooking home cooked food, homemade food. It's just where everyone goes to when the dog is ill now. And I think that's really good, because what really worries me is that the people that are educating us about how to feed our dogs are the enemy. They don't care about our dogs at all. It's completely about how much money they can make, and they're the ones educating us. And I will continue to constantly study nutrition. I research it all the time, and my aim now is to make it as easy as possible for you to cook your dogs a homemade food that's really nutritious. And so at the moment I'm working on studying all the minerals and vitamins that dogs need, and there's a lot of them. And then I'm studying and trying to make, well, I have already done it. I've made a list of all the foods that are needed to cover all of those minerals and vitamins. And fruit and vegetables are incredibly important, and they're a big part of that. And there's some things like banana, as an example. I give them 2 little slices of banana every lunchtime and treat them like vitamin tablets, because there's stuff in a banana that you can't get from any other vitamins or minerals. But the other thing, and berries, there's a lot of berries that contain stuff that you can't get, a dog will going to struggle to get. And that's why in the wild you see wolves eating raspberries, because it's the only place they can get some of the minerals they need. But of course meat and fish is the most important thing. Without that, meat instructs every single cell in the body about what to do. So meat and fish for dogs is incredibly important, and I feed my dog 70% meat and fish and then 30% vegetables and fruit. Absolutely no grains at all. If you don't know my channel, you don't know what I'm always going on about. Grains, rice, pasta, potato, wheat, absolutely horrific for dogs. I've seen it, I've lived it, I know, I see this, this is what I do day in, day out. I help dogs that are going through this. I'm actually in the process of thinking about setting up a website so that you can actually consult with me on Zoom. Because when you contact me, I have a lot of questions to ask. I really need to get to the bottom of what's going on with the dog. And I don't, really will need to get to the bottom of what's going on. So I ask a lot of questions, and it can take a bit of time. And if we're just going backwards and forwards on Instagram, it's quite time consuming. So I'm thinking about setting up a website where you can contact me through Zoom, and then we can just have, a quick chat, and then, I can keep in touch with you if you need me to stay in touch with you and get your dog sorted, because a dog suffering with hot spots and itchy skin it's horrendous. It is horrendous. And I know with my little Albert, when he had it, it was just awful. And a lot of you send me photographs, and the poor darlings, they're suffering, and it's just not okay. And this business of Mars and Nestle taking over all the good quality dog food companies. I mean, Lily's Kitchen, I'll never forgive that woman for doing that. She was so on the right track of everything she was doing. She was really doing good for dogs. Now she's sold out to Nestle, and I'll never forgive her for doing that, because not only has she put a really good quality dog food now in the hands of a confectionery company, but people trusted Lily's Kitchen. And this is another thing I get all the time. People say, oh no, it's fine, I feed Lily's Kitchen. Yeah, sure, that might be fine now, but this is, if you're watching this in the future, it's 2024 now. But what's that going to be like in the future? Because they're going to change that recipe. I mean, there is no way, but the ingredients that the lady had put in her food was basically meat and veg, very kind of homemade, and that's going to cost, and there's no way they're going to stick to that, no way. So people are going to be feeding their dogs Lily's Kitchen, believing it's the right thing to do, because it was the right thing to do. It absolutely was the right thing to do. And they're going to make those changes, and people aren't going to know. And yeah, it's just terrible. And so we have to educate ourselves. And I understand that you are very busy people and you don't have time, and I understand all of that, but I do have time, and this is what I'm all about, and I do have time, and I will continue to always be researching nutrition. I'm reading scientific papers, I'm seeing what's going on, what the latest updates and the research is, and I'm playing around with ingredients and recipes all the time so that I can make it as simple for you as possible to feed your dog a balanced diet. One thing that it really struck me lately is with all the vitamins and the minerals that they need is what a variety of vegetables and fruit you have to have, and to a degree meats and fish, what a variety you have to have, and so how incredibly important balance is. So I feed them turkey, chicken and salmon, frozen salmon, and then a selection of vegetables and fruit. And it's really important that each meal has different vegetables and different fruit in it, so that over the course of a 2-week period I've covered everything that they need. It's really important that you don't just get stuck with one meat or one fish and one vegetable, because that is nowhere near going to hit all their requirements. But as I learn, I will keep talking about it to you. But today I want to talk about the detoxing. It's so important that you know that dogs need to detox. Whether you're coming from dog food to dog food, or whether you're going dog food to homemade, they need to detox. It's really important that you give them that time, or else their systems will just look like it's got worse and you've done the wrong thing. And you haven't done the wrong thing. Getting them off the grains is vital, but it just looks bad because you've just gone too fast and would make the dog feel awful. And so you just need to slow right down. And as always, don't hesitate. If you've got any questions about this, do not hesitate to contact me. Whether it's here, whether it's on Instagram. I'm on TikTok and have been quite active over there. But I think if you want to contact me, probably Instagram DMs is the best place to do it. It's bin day. Humps is barking at the bin men. So that's it for today. So you know where I am. Please do not hesitate to ask me any questions. If I know of an answer, I will help you. If I don't know it, if I haven't lived it, there's not much I haven't lived. I mean, rescuing dogs for 30 years, they send most problems. They send me a lot of problems. But if I don't know the answer to it, I will find someone that does and try and help you. So I hope that you all have a really lovely day. I hope that your dogs are all well. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.